Holly. I'm your Thomson Reuters Westlaw Academic Account Manager. So one of the most frustrating things about 2L legal research is that you feel like you should know it all. You feel like you have it all under your belt. You have taken your 1L legal research class, you've done some summer work, and you feel like you should have a good grip of it. And then you come into 2L and you take one of these specific legal research classes, whether that be transactional law or transactional research or appellate research or something that's going to change the way you need to research a little bit. And that can be really frustrating. It's a new animal, a new game, and something that you've never done before. So today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some of my favorite transactional tools if you're in a transactional law class that are going to be super helpful and super relevant to the research that you need to do for a class. I did a little bit of transactional law in practice, so I have a really good idea of what I need to tell you, and I think there are some tools that you're going to find in these next few minutes of this video that are going to really make your life way easier. And I know that these Westlaw tools are going to help you. I'll see you all around campus, and let me know if you have any comments or questions. My email is holly.lynchfritz@tr.com, so always feel free to reach out to me.
When I get an assignment, my go-to is going to be to go to practical law. So I just hit that drop down, went right to practical law. Why I'm going to go to practical law rather than Westlaw is it's going to have practical insights for transactional assignments. So that's going to be a much better place for me to start and gain some knowledge about something that I don't know about rather than doing traditional research. So practical law is going to be divided into a few different sections. You might not have used this before in first year, so I'll show you around. There's going to be a law school resource center, but what we're going to be working with today is this main area. So you're going to see some practice areas such as real estate, antitrust, and you're also going to see resource types, which is going to be some practice notes, checklists, standard documents. Right now, we're going to click on standard documents. Let's say we know what document we need to draft. Let's say we know we need to draft a letter of intent. So we're going to go into a letter of intent. And let's say we have a good idea. We don't really know what practice area this is about, but we know that the document is called a letter of intent. We can search this just like your standard Westlaw Edge search bar. You're going to be able to put that in the search bar and write letter of intent. We're going to go ahead and hit search. So what standard documents are is they're going to be documents with amazing inline editorial enhancements that are going to take you step by step on how to draft a particular document. Awesome. So from here, we're going to see there's a lot of different letters of intent. So it looks like they're related to commercial real estate or all types of real estate. So here we go. We see some private companies, some office leases, all sorts of different ones. So there are pro landlord and pro tenant forms. So for our purposes today, let's say that we're going to go with a letter of intent for an office lease and we're representing a landlord. We'll go ahead and click on that. Awesome. So from here, we're going to see immediately at the top what a letter of intent is. My first place that I am going to go is this note that says read before using this document. So that should pop out to you first. And it's going to automatically let me know when do I want to use this letter of intent. It's making sure that I'm using the right document. So it looks like it's also known as a term sheet. And there's also some additional information on that I may want to look into if I'm going to be doing one of these documents. So some practice notes that are going to give me some insights. It also looks like it has the binding authority. So what the law I need for drafting this, some guides on state and local law for the particular documents, some assumptions, and it's also going to tell me that the bracketed items that are within the document with all caps should be changed based on whoever I'm representing. That really helpful information. I'm going to open this in a new window so I can later refer back to it. I'm going to want some of that information of the practice note to have a better understanding of my document. Say I have to explain it to a client or have to discuss it with my professor. So I'm going to put that in the side window. So going through the document immediately, you see that each section has these notes right here. So each of these notes describes exactly what this section is for. it's going to tell you, so this premises section defines the premises, and it's going to tell you what that particular paragraph needs. And again, it's going to give you practice notes even for that specific paragraph. So you're really having a good grasp of what you're drafting. You're not just kind of throwing an arrow at a really far away dartboard. You know exactly what you need to do. We can also open this in Word. So that's very handy because it's all in good to have this document, but you want to be able to edit it. So we can download it into Word, open up 2 windows, and then go through the document and change those bold terms to best fit what we need for our particular issue that we're working with. So a really great way to have a transactional document, this letter of intent, and have it quickly and customizable. So really saves a lot of the legwork on our part while also making sure that we understand the document that we're drafting. So let's go back for a second. We've drafted the document, but we really want to have a good understanding of it. Let's go back to those practice notes and see what's going on with that. Okay, so those practice notes are going to be written by a legal expert within the particular point of law that you're working with. So here it looks like he works for Thomson Hines. So we're going to go through, and it has all of these notes about the letter of intent. So it's telling us the reasons why we might want this letter, the letter of intent, whether it's binding, and then really important are going to be these key terms. So you will have an understanding of every term that is in that document that you're drafting. And it's also going to give you subterms. So very, very helpful. You also can go into these additional standard documents. So say you clicked in this and you actually want to do pro tenant, that's in there as well. And a lot of other curated information that's going to be very, very handy. Okay, so another way that we could do is to go into this document and form builder. So let's say you like practical law, but you just want to try something else. You want to create that letter of intent and you want to try to use form builder. That's another really good option and can be really handy as well and can give you a very customizable form. So we're going to go into form builder. Again, you just pick a client ID. And again, we're going to see that jurisdiction and topic kind of format. So let's say since we already know it's about real estate, let's click on real estate since we know that that letter of intent is a real estate document. So this can get you into some issues. So I'm actually going to go and show you some problems that you can run into with this search. So let's show letter of intent. We're going to type it into form builder. So because we've narrowed it really far, we might be missing some things. We might be missing some other letters of intent, and it might not be getting us exactly what we need. So we look down. We're also going to be able to see, though, you can look and see all of the different jurisdictions and court document types. There's letters, there's agreements, and there's a whole section for letters of intent. Well, it looks like what's classified under this, there's only one letter of intent to purchase real estate. So we made our search so narrow. So what we're going to go ahead and do is go back and search within the general bar into that form builder to get more results. And we're going to see that actually made it too broad. So in Ohio, it looks like there are letters of intent for family law and for a lot of different legal topics, not just real estate. So we're just going to make it more general, and we're going to come across this letter of intent to lease store space. So let's say that fits our needs really well. We're going to go to that, and we'll just go through this. Now, there are thousands of forms of form builder, so you can find one that matches your needs best, but I'll show you how it works here. You're going to hit build. You're going to select a client, but for this purpose, let's say build without a client matter. Since you're in law school, you don't necessarily need to put one in that profile builder. From that, it's going to take us kind of to this building wizard of the document. It's going to let us put in all of those blank spaces, all of those blank spaces that are there. It's going to let us fill in those words and is going to modify the document based on a certain selections that you make. So you're going to choose the type of company, date, everything that you want to put in the document. You're going to be able to put it right in there. So name, owner, and so let's say his name is John Smith. He lives at 100 Main Street. And so we'll just show you kind of next. You put in all of these details, all the details you have. That's going to have their lease year, rent, option periods, a lot of different fill in the blanks. So once all of those are filled in on Form Builder, you're going to hit Download Form. And again, that's going to give you a really handy, easy, editable Word document that you can work with and make whatever you need. Okay, now let's say instead of an entire document, you've been given an entire task. We're going to use Practical Law Connect for that. And what Practical Law Connect does is it takes all of your Westlaw content and all of your Practical Law content and puts it in one place. It's perfect for larger research projects like the one we have in front of us. So let's say we're looking at the sale of a building, a commercial real estate sale. And we're going to go ahead then and click on real estate, the little ellipses next to real estate, and look for the specific topic. So here we see there's purchase and selling of commercial real estate, and it actually breaks it down into even more subtopics. For right now, let's click on the larger heading, purchasing and selling commercial real estate. So commercial real estate, as you know, is basically any real estate that generates profit. So that could be through rental or whatever they're doing. So it's a pretty broad subject area. So we're here going to see some practical law resources. So a purchasing and selling real estate toolkit, that looks helpful. Let's click on this initial steps one though. If we're just starting, we're going to think that might be a good place to start. So put that in a new window, but we'll keep looking on the page. You're also going to see on this page some forms and standard documents, some secondary sources, which are also really informative and helpful. And you're also going to see these content types. So it's actually going to link all content types to this particular subject, purchasing and selling commercial real estate. Let's check out that document that we just opened in another window. So we're going to look at this purchase and selling commercial real estate checklist, initial steps. And we're going to see that it's going to give us a breakdown of step-by-steps of what we might need to use for the sale of commercial real estate. So say we're the seller, we see the seller objectives, and we're going to see basically the workflow of what the steps are going to be involved. So a step-by-step plain language explanation of everything we need to do in selling this property. There's that letter of intent that we've worked with. So we know we're going to need one of those. Due diligence, some action items. So everything you would need to sell a property is going to be right here. It's also going to link you to anything that you might need. See, there's a link to title search. Anything that you could use in this selling of a property is going to be housed right within this document. It's also going to link you to related content. So content that might not be right within the article, but is going to be right on point with what you're wanting to do. So you're going to see things like that toolkit I mentioned earlier. Let's take a look at that. The real estate toolkit is going to give you a really good basis of understanding for selling commercial real estate. So it's going to give you all of these resources that you might need. So it's going to show you how to draft that letter of intent, drafting sale agreements, all of your kind of action items that you might have. It's going to give you instructions on how to do that and give you those documents. So all of these documents that you may need to use in the sale of that property. Some standard documents that we used before. Remember, we used those to build that letter of intent. We see there's much more. And then we're also going to see all of those checklists. So a lot of resources to make sure that we're doing everything along the way that we need to sell that property as our assignment. We're going to go back to that front page. And again, you're going to see there's a lot of resources related to the sale of property. Again, you see this breakdown of subdivisions. So within selling commercial real estate, you might want to see the subheading of development considerations and see what that has to offer. That has a whole nother set of issues that may come up. So are there development issues with your sale? You might want to consider what type of sale transaction you're looking at. So is it a particular type of sale? Is it specific? Maybe it's something that might be a little bit out of the ordinary. Maybe you're selling a hospital or something a little more specific. So let's say we want to get even more specific and we know we're working on an issue dealing with low income housing. We're going to put in quotations low income and do a search that's really going to hone down our results into something even more specific. So we can look into resources, maybe to expand the knowledge that we've gained about commercial transactions in general, and look into some things that might be about low income housing sales in particular. So we're going to see some practical law content and some considerations. My general rule is always going to be to start with a larger concept and then drill it down to find those specifics that you want to add in your documents. So if you're doing a sale of property, of commercial property, learn about that first, learn how that process works, and then find out the details about the specifics that you're working with. So for example, if you're working with low income, you can find out some specific considerations about that. So for example, when we did that search by putting it in quotation marks, so looking more about the low income sales, we're going to see these secondary sources that come up. So these are some issues that you might want to consider. So federally subsidized housing, some tax credit issues. It looks like when you do sell, there might be some depreciation recapture issues. So some different things to consider than just a normal one. So we're going to click on that first one, federally subsidized housing. So we're going to see some specifics about these kinds of real estate investments. So some things that are specific to low income housing and its implications. So it looks like a huge thing is tax savings. We can go ahead and look at the references, maybe to see a little more about that. So if this is something where we want to look more into, we can click on references and see some of the things that they cite in particular. So it's going to take us to research references. So we can see those treatises and practice aids. So maybe some forms we want to look at specific to this. Maybe some law review articles. So some different references that are specifically referenced within that low income secondary source. So that text and treatise. So again, we see some depreciation issues. So some issues that are going to be specific to low income property sales. So once you're done learning about the beginning stages and the specifics of the document, you're going to want to go back to Practical Law Connect. And if you remember, we saw that final steps checklist. That final steps checklist we're going to go back into to make sure that we are not missing anything and to see how we want to close up that sale. So kind of the back end of that transaction. So we're going to go back into our checklist. And again, our checklists are going to give us step-by-step guides. So we did that initial steps one. We're going to work with final steps now. So we've kind of learned the beginning, the middle, what's specific to our sale, and we want to make sure that we know the final steps for the sale of a commercial property. We're going to click on that. And again, it's going to give us a detailed list of what exactly we need to consider. So it's going to talk about the timeline that we're looking at, what's important in that timeline, and detail everything. Again, it's going to break it down between seller and purchaser and considerations that are specific to that party. So considerations here that are specific to the seller in the final stages of the sale. Again, we're going to see all of these documents. So different consents, waivers, and notices. So it looks like you have to prepare an estoppel certificate and also these other agreements that you might need to prepare. So there are a lot of documents within a sale. So again, we're expanding. So we learned how to look up a specific document at the start of this, and now we're looking up a specific task. So the sale of a property definitely has a lot more steps than just one document. So in this, we can see all of the steps throughout the way that we might need to consider. So this is going to show us the closing. And again, we see a practice note that's going to, in plain language, make it really easy to understand that closing. So these are all of the things that I would look at when you're doing a transactional assignment. I really hope that this was helpful, and please email me with any questions you may have. And I am looking so forward to helping and working with you all.